Hey everybody, time for the matinee show. And again, just like last week, I guess because it was Thanksgiving week, we didn't really have time to go to the theater because we were busy doing holiday stuff and all this other thing. So we stayed in and watched 3 movies. I think, were all of them on Netflix? No. There was, one of them was on Shudder.
Yeah.
Two of them were on Shudder, one was on Netflix, I think. Or maybe they were all on Shudder. I don't remember. But anyway.
I know the second 2 were on Shudder.
But yeah, actually the first one might be too, now that I'm thinking about it. So these are all Shudder movies this week. All right, so the first one that we saw, I actually saw this one a couple weeks ago and didn't get around to reviewing it, but then I watched it again today, so I would be ready for the review. This is Haunt. Now, this just premiered at the Popcorn Frights Film Festival in August of this year, and subsequently had a rather limited theatrical release, and then went to Shudder and various other VOD platforms. Now, there have been like a lot. It didn't really occur to me until I was kind of reading about it and thinking about it. And I was like, there have been a really lot of horror movies in the last few years that have been set in haunts. You know what I mean? It was like a haunted house that people go to, like on Halloween, and they have actors in it that scare you and shit like that. I mean, there was the whole Hell House LLC franchise, one of which we reviewed. There was Hellfest.
I've seen so many of them that I get them all confused.
Yeah, there was one called American Fright Fest. There was another one called Blood Fest. there was a lot of fest movies. Yeah. So this one is the same kind of premise. It's basically a slasher, and it's set inside like an extreme haunt. That said, this one was actually, like, better than I was expecting. You know what I mean? It's nothing, like, fantastic. It's nothing, like, to write home about or anything like that. There's not original premise or, there's nothing mind-blowing about it or anything. But it was actually, like, a pretty enjoyable... I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Just the one that was... I get them all confused. This is the one that it had the CG at the very end that kind of wasn't all that great. The one where it was like a sequel and there were some people coming back to life from heaven.
No.
Or from hell. Okay, it's not the same one.
No, that's a completely different movie.
Yeah.
This one...
to me, they're all the same.
Yeah, this one was actually... I think this was written by the same 2 guys that did A Quiet Place, and it was actually produced by Eli Roth. So that's probably, why it got like a little more fanfare than some of the other ones, like maybe Hellfest. I actually liked this a bit better than Hellfest. I just think that the character development was better. The characters are more likable. But basically, what you got is you have the main character, whose name is Harper, and she has a shitty, abusive boyfriend. And she is just, he's just punched her in the face, so she has like a black eye and stuff like that. And it's Halloween night, and her roommate... and some of their other friends, they all have their costumes on, and they're like, come out with us and like fuck that guy and all this other kind of crap. Yeah. So she's like trying to play it off. She, covers the bruise up with makeup and everything, and they drag her out for Halloween night. And they're kind of out at a club, and she meets a guy that's really nice and all this other kind of shit. So then they're trying to decide what they should do with their night, and they decide that they're going to go to a haunt. Now, one of them gets a flyer for one of those ones that's like an extreme one. Which they have in real life. And they want to try and find that one, but then they're kind of driving around looking on their phones, and, there's other ones in the area, and they're trying to decide, and they're squabbling over which one they're going to go to and all this other stuff. So eventually, and there's another thing, too, where the main character, Harper, who is kind of, the other characters are kind of, I don't want to say they're like stock characters, because all the acting in this is like surprisingly pretty good. And like I said, the characters are all fairly likable. None of them are like, please die, or anything, you know what I mean? None of them are that bad. So, but she's kind of the only one that gets a significant backstory. She's got the abusive boyfriend. She's got, apparently her dad was abusive also, which is why she's kind of repeating the cycle. So she has like a few flashbacks in there and stuff. And it kind of ties in with, her character arc of like finding her strength, I guess, going through this haunted house. So it's almost kind of, you could almost see it as like kind of a metaphorical thing of like her casting off her past and like, going back and taking back her strength and, conquering her fear or whatever. So she thinks that before they even get to the haunt, she thinks she sees somebody like stalking them, somebody that's like in a devil kind of outfit. It's like a red cloak and like a weird mask and stuff. And she thinks it's her boyfriend, as you would. But so she thinks that they're being followed. And the creepy thing is they're driving and she sees this truck behind them. And she makes them stop because she's like, what the fuck? I think somebody's following. And then there's nobody back there. But then all of a sudden, this sign that nobody saw before just goes, like, comes on, and it says haunted house. And they're like, oh, that's the one that we got the flyer for. Let's go up there and check that out. So they get in there. There's a creepy clown. They take their cell phones away, which, you know, like I said, they do that in real life. So you don't, like, photograph shit inside. And since this is a horror movie, you will not be surprised to learn that they start getting picked off one by one. However, just like in... I think the cool thing, what makes a lot of these movies work, even though, like I said, it's not a hugely original premise, it's not mind-blowing or anything, but what makes this work is that the protagonists are in a situation where you could be forgiven for thinking that the shit that was happening in front of you was fake. Because at one point, one of their friends, like, gets lost, because they get separated because they go off in different directions and doing other things, and there's little rooms and stuff, and... you know, she kind of reappears later, and it looks like somebody kills her, but in a way that it could be fake also. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of like a good aspect, and it's kind of what makes it a little bit more realistic, because if you were in an extreme haunted house, they make you sign a waiver and all this other kind of shit. So if horrible shit started happening, you wouldn't immediately cop to the fact that, oh shit, this is real and I have to get out of here. You know what I mean? So it kind of makes it a little bit more... because in a slasher movie, a lot of times if they're in like a real life quote unquote situation and you're like, well, why don't you just get the fuck out of there? It's like, why are you hanging around in this place when there's clearly a murderer? But in this one, it takes them longer because they're not sure what's fake and what's not.
Horror movies like this, done in this style, kind of, I put them on par with those like found footage type.
Yeah.
Movies, you know, Blair Witch Project was the first one I remember.
Yeah, this is not found footage though.
It's not found footage, but there's something about this particular genre, this particular tone of horror. Kind of, I put it up there with that found footage.
Yeah.
To me, they're not bad. They're not great. To me, they're kind of like I put them on par with kind of like the MCU and say like Disney movies. They feel kind of generic and soulless to me.
They do a bit, yeah.
And so, it's some people, maybe it depends on how old you are, what you grew up with. I think maybe younger people might like these, but older people like me, you know, we see them and they just don't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's a good example. People love the MCU. To me, I can watch an MCU movie and enjoy it, but as soon as it's over, forget every bit of it. Like
I don't really remember them.
And then you put that up
like
against,
a month later.
Now you compare that with Joker, another superhero movie, but Joker was a film. That was a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
That was a film with a capital
That was
F.
a film with an F. Okay. That's the way these things kind of feel. I mean, you know what I mean? They kind of feel a little generic and soulless.
They do.
I don't really remember them that much. The other two that we talk about on here are more along the lines of what I consider to be like a real movie.
Well, the other two that we're going to talk about had more of like memorable premises.
Yeah, I remembered them, and you know, and they had the feel of a movie that had some damn soul to it.
Yeah.
You know, but
well, like I said, I feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong with this movie. This is a movie where, you know, it's you know, maybe if it's Friday night, you've had a couple beers, and it's like you're kind of like, I just want to watch like a slasher movie that I don't have to think too hard about. That's not like super complicated.
That's what it's for.
And this one, it has like some really good, like some well executed gore. Like I said, the acting is good, and it's got like it's good pace, it's good tension. You know what I mean? You actually kind of care about what happens to the character. You get bummed out if they die and stuff.
It's like an MCU movie. There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just that for some reason they don't really stick with you.
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm talking about.
And I feel like that happens with it because, look, it's like I love horror movies and I'll watch them all day long, and I think that happens with pretty much every genre. There's really only a handful of movies that, you know, resonate with you enough that, like, you know, a year later, 2 years later, you still remember it. You know what I mean? And it's very rare in any genre, and even movies that I like at the time, even ones, because this one I watched a couple of times, like in preparation for the review. It's like, it's a good movie. It's like, it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. It's not, like I said, it was just kind of like Hellfest. It's like, we had a great time watching it, but it's like, I don't really remember all that much about it. Right. Even though it was fun when you saw it. And this is like a similar thing. It's not like a hugely original premise, like I said, and especially in the last couple of years, because there have been a lot of movies, set in a haunt environment. Probably out of those, I think probably Hell House LLC, the first one, is probably my favorite. Just because, and even though I don't usually like found footage, but I really think that was really well done. But this is actually a good one too, and I like how this ended. It's got like some really nice gore set pieces. Some of it's CGI, but what they did was, it's very low budget, but they did a lot of practical effects and then put CGI over it. So at times you can tell it's CGI, but it's not really that bad because a lot of it is still practically done. And I kind of liked, the way they had the haunt set up. It's like when you first go in and it looks like kind of a cheap jack, like JC's haunted house kind of thing. And it's like, that's kind of what it would really be like, but then it just kind of gets worse and worse, like as it goes on. So this is a perfectly fine movie, fun to watch for Halloween or whatever. If you're like really into horror movies, it's nothing that's, you need to write home about or anything like that. But, it's perfectly fun if you like that kind of thing. And like I said, it's pretty gory. So if you're into slashers, no tits or anything like that, but so sorry to disappoint any tit fans out there.
Yeah, well,
no nudity, but
I think that kind of has to happen in horror movies.
Well, I mentioned
especially a cheap horror movie.
Well, I mentioned it because slashers, that's kind of the two things they're known for, is like gore and tits. And it's like, so this doesn't have any tits, but the gore is good though. And like there's actually one gore gag in it, like with someone's face get peeled off or something like that was actually really, really well done, and really like, you know what I mean? So that was like really good. But check it out. It's on Shudder, I think. I think you can also rent it, on various other VOD platforms, Amazon Prime, YouTube, whatever. So check it out if you like slash. All right, now the second movie we saw this week, this one kind of came out of nowhere, just turned up on Shudder, unexpectedly, so we decided to watch it because it looked kind of crazy. This is called Nekrotronic. I think it's also called Necromancer.
Yeah, this is an Australian movie.
This is an Australian.
And once again, the Australians are bringing it. This is a pretty good one. I liked this one.
I did as well.
It was kind of retro. It was kind of, or not really retro. I guess you could say it's traditional in the way that the writing and the layout.
And the score was very...
The score was great. It was traditional Hollywood, big classical fucking score. I liked it. I think they did have some rock in it too. Just got to watch it. But it felt kind of like a Spielberg movie.
It did a bit. Yeah. And it kind of like, and it had like a lot of homages to
every horror movie.
Kind of classic. There was some homages to Ghostbusters in there. Yeah. It had like a Frighteners. Hellraiser. Had kind of a Frighteners sort of vibe going on. Yep. So there was all kind of that shit going on. Alien, yeah.
It had shout outs to everything was in it.
Pretty much, yeah. And it had a little bit of a retro look. It was kind of, a lot of like neon colors and
practical effects.
Probably.
Big demons.
Yeah.
Also there was a lot of Evil Dead.
Oh yeah.
And Ash and Evil Dead kind of situations.
Yeah. This is kind of like, okay, so the two biggest stars in this are Monica Bellucci, who's, very famous actress, and also David Wenham, who actually was in the Lord of the Rings movies, among many, many other things. So this deals with there's two characters who, at the beginning, are... What did they work like? They're kind of like a septic tank service or something.
They would go up, but they had this truck. They'd suck the shit out of the fucking septic.
Yeah, and it's like, I laughed because their company, I can't remember what the name of the company was, but their motto was, "We take your crap."
Yeah, it was, and there's a lot of humor in this movie.
Yeah.
So I like that tone very much. It was very much kind of like an Evil Dead tone.
Yeah.
With a lot of action, it's just fucking bro humor and fart jokes and shit and just whatever.
It was like lowbrow humor, but like in a kind of like high concept sci-fi type of thing.
And the movie is actually packed full of action, humor, and effects and horror.
Yeah.
And sci-fi.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
A lot happens in the movie. Something happens every few minutes. So there aren't any really slow spots in it.
Yeah, not really.
No.
I mean, I can see how, because I've been watching some other people's reviews of this, like after we watched it. It seems like about half and half. Some people really dug it. Some people thought it was good, but thought it needed a series because there was just like, because the story was so, because there was so much going on and it was so convoluted. Because basically what ends up happening, these two guys that work for this like septic tank sucking company.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Harry Potter situation where like the one guy doesn't know like what his powers are and shit. So his kind of dumb buddy who's working with him, he's discovered this new mobile app. Yeah. That's essentially like Pokemon Go, except with like ghosts and demons. It's like ghost hunting, yeah.
And you can bring them in through another dimension. Eventually, there's like demons are trying to have kind of ordered the installation of kind of like 5G, but it's like a special satanic 5G.
Yeah, like
which
these
allows
big things on.
Demons to come in through another dimension. So it all that element started to go a little bit kind of like the Matrix.
Yeah,
there was some Matrix type stuff going on. It's just a fun movie. You're not supposed to take any of this shit seriously. They just packed a lot into one movie.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of the movie, And
I think one of the best things about it, like I said, it's a very complicated story. The kind of pre-credit sequence, or this credit sequence, which is animated, and it kind of like describes because Monica Bellucci's character, I guess she's kind of like some kind of demon queen, or so there's people called necromancers with a K, and I guess since the beginning of time, they've been like fighting these demons and stuff. Now, Monica Bellucci's character used to be a necromancer, but I guess she like defected and she like went to the dark side and decided that she wanted to be like demon queen. So she has, I don't know how long she's been alive. I guess it's been a really long time, but she has instituted this new game that I guess when you download it and play it and you like capture these ghosts with your phone, you're like capturing actual demons and then they possess you and like all this other kind of stuff. So she's like trying to collect souls for, world domination or what have you. So then you have like David Wenham's character and his two daughters who are necromancers.
I thought they were just trying to bring hell on Earth.
Maybe they were. I'm not entirely sure what their end game was.
You can't really try to make too much. Don't try to make too much out of this movie or try to make sense out of it, really. It did make sense, but you don't care when you're watching it. It's just people fighting demons and demons appearing. It's like Evil Dead.
Yeah, and
I didn't keep track of how many times.
And bringing people back with 3D printers and some kind of Frighteners action. American Werewolf in London. There was a little bit of
when you're watching Evil Dead, you're not wondering what the Deadites are trying to do and how many times they've come across and by what technology it's happening and how that you're just fucking watching the movie. You're laughing at the movie and drinking, I guess, or. Like
that's what, it's like this, like I said, this one, I had not heard a single thing about this.
Yeah.
It just popped up on Shudder, like in the new arrivals, and I was like, the poster looked great, and I was like...
I saw some of the negative reviews. I just laughed at the negative reviews, too, you know what I mean? They're trying to make sense out of a fucking movie like this.
I will agree that...
They're trying to take a movie like this seriously.
I did see one guy that kind of liked the movie, but he's like, I wish they would have made it into a series, because he's like, this could... I mean, because the scope of the story was so large. This is a very ambitious movie for as little of a budget as they had.
Right.
And to a large extent, I think they did a really good job. I mean, they got like some really great actors. They got some great special effects going in there. And the humor, it's juvenile, but it's funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were saying the humor is so juvenile.
I mean, the two guys at the beginning I thought were very funny.
That's the shit I would have laughed at when I was in high school.
We had a really good time with this movie. I was like unexpectedly, because all I knew about it, like I said, was I thought the poster looked cool on Shudder, and like I read, there's the little 2-sentence description or whatever, and at first I was kind of like, well, I don't know, am I gonna like that or not? Because usually I'm kind of hit or miss with like horror sci-fi mashup type stuff.
The tone was correct.
It was.
The tone was correct for the subject matter.
It's definitely kind of a comedy.
Yeah, horror comedy.
It's a horror comedy. It's a horror sci-fi comedy.
It's up there with the Reanimator and From Beyond and. Even to a certain, not really so much Dagon, but it's that kind of stuff where You're not supposed to take Bride of Reanimator. You're not really supposed to take it that seriously. You're not supposed to take it seriously.
Honestly, I think the vibe of this reminded me of the Frighteners more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Like, other people's mileage may vary, but for some reason, this gave me a very Frighteners vibe.
Frighteners was kind of like the dark Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel like Frighteners to me.
Parts of it did.
Parts of it felt like Ghostbusters, though, too.
A little bit, yeah. There was definitely a Ghostbusters
parts
kind
of it
thing
felt
going
like
on
Hellraiser. There were some Hellraiser tropes. Just remember they had the box.
The box with that looks kind of like the Lament configuration, except it had kind of like more of a kind of thingy on it. It just was what it was. Yeah, and like I said, if you like sci-fi horror comedies, and if you like movies that are kind of like, it's kind of like a throwback, like I said, particularly to with the score and the cinematography.
Almost felt like Tremors.
Yeah, kind of.
With the bugs, with the damn
that
worms.
Was kind of like that.
Started off kind of like Tremors.
Yeah, because it was these two guys in the septic tank truck, and they were like digging around, smoking pot, and like, talking shit to each other and whatnot.
It's just every classic comedy, sci-fi, horror comedy trope was coming at you, and they did this shit unabashedly. Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, definitely, if that sounds like something that would be up your alley, I mean, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was a pretty cool movie. I thought, just
movie.
There was a lot of stuff going on in it, but
it's a fun movie.
Yeah. So do you really have to keep track of it? No, probably not. I mean, you probably enjoy it more if you do, but if you just want to, like I said, just like with the last movie, just like have a beer and watch the shit.
Yeah.
Just like don't take it too seriously.
It's an entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's definitely entertaining, and it's on Shudder. They just added it. Okay, and the third movie, this was also another one that just turned up on Shudder that I had not heard anything about before watching it.
Yeah.
This is called Deep Murder.
Good movie. Good movie. Weird movie.
This is another one that's going to be like, okay, so I don't know, either people are really going to like this or not.
It's a slasher comedy.
It's a comedy, first and foremost.
Right.
It does have gore in it. It does have, like, slasher tropes in it. Yeah. But it's definitely a comedy. And actually, the guy that directed it was from Funny or Die. Yeah. That
if you like
website.
Porn, you will understand this movie.
Yeah. So the premise of this movie, let me see if I can explain this. So when I was, like, reading the description of it on Shudder, I thought that it was going to be a slasher movie that was set like on a porno set. That's not exactly what's going on.
No, it's like in another dimension.
What's going on is that these people, it is a porno movie, but these people are like not self-aware. They're in a porno movie. This is like a slasher taking place in a porno movie universe where the people that are in it are not actors, but they don't have any life outside. They don't have any self-awareness of like life outside the house or anything like that. That's all they know is porn.
Yeah, and they're like bad porn actors, and like they do porn tropes, and it's just fucking funny.
And like they don't know, so like when somebody starts bumping off all these people, like they don't know how to deal with it because all they know is porn tropes.
Imagine they're like two-dimensional porn actors.
Yeah,
trying to deal with this.
So they're not. So I was thinking about this.
It's happening in the porn dimension. And
it's like a different dimension.
Yeah, it's like in another dimension, really.
It's kind of high concept when you think about it. It's like high concept, lowbrow.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're into like kind of
And they got all the porn tropes, man.
Yeah.
Big black beefcake. They got.
It comes to the door. He's like a fire.
Twinks. They got MILFs.
Nerds, MILFs.
They got teen porn star girl. Teen schoolgirl. They got all that. Every silver gray fox dude. Every fucking porn trope. That's the characters are based on that. Like they're stock porn star characters.
But like I said, that's all they are. That's all they know.
Yeah, that's right. They're not real people doing porn movies. No, it's just the damn character.
Yeah,
porn characters
as a person,
like it's happening in a parallel universe.
That's like harder to explain than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but you understand it when you see it.
Because it took me like when I was first watching the movie, because like when the movie opens up, it opens like a standard, like a terrible.
They act like porn bots.
Porn movie, yeah. So I'm sitting there watching it, and then like it's going, and I'm like, wait a minute, they don't know like when they stop the scene, they don't know that they're in a porno movie. No, that's just
they don't know they're in a porn movie.
And it's like they don't know what life is like outside or something like that. It's the it's the craziest thing.
Film characters under attack. And they have to be a porn movie.
Yeah. So it's like the weirdest premise, but
and if they're bad actors, they act bad through the whole movie. That's the way they are.
Which in a way I was thinking because there's actually like some fairly big stars in this, like Jerry O'Connell.
Pretend like they can't act.
He was in Stand By Me, and he was in some shit in the 90s. You know, one of the guys that was in it was in he was in Grease too, and he was in like a bunch of other kind of stuff too. You know, and some of the other ones have been on, you know, have like kind of big TV roles and whatnot. But it's like I was thinking about how difficult it must be, like for an actor. It's like you're an actor and you're in a movie and you have to act like a bad actor who is also a person who doesn't know that they're a bad actor. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, that must have been really difficult.
In the porn dimension.
And they all kind of like really pulled it up. And I mean, there's the character, like I said, there's the MILF character. She's like, she's having an affair with the brother-in-law, like the husband who's played by the Grease 2 guy. He's just like a businessman, like, and he walks around in his sweatsuit, like yelling into his phone, like all the time. Yeah. And you know, there's one girl who's she doesn't even have a name. She's just babysitter. And she just walks around like sucking on a lollipop, like all the time. Yeah. and like everything's like innuendo. Yeah. She's a doctor.
Doctor. Okay, but she's dressed in a nurse outfit.
Dr. Bunny Van Clit.
Yeah. She says that shit real seriously.
And that's it. Yeah, and she's like, she comes in, she's supposed to be a climate scientist, I guess. She's not even a doctor. She's a scientist. She's a climate scientist, and she tells them a storm is coming, but one of the running jokes that they don't ever like refer to it, but she tells them about like this bad storm and we're trapped in this house, even though it's clearly very sunny outside during the entire movie. Yeah. And it's like they don't know. So it's like really...
It's kind of like Airplane, you know, laugh a minute movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that.
It's like not every single joke
but it's a horror.
Lands, but this is a surprisingly, I mean, we were dying laughing at some points. Because it's kind of like some of the gags are a lot smarter than you have any right to think that they would be. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of the shit is just they don't comment on it. Like I said, the whole thing about her, like she's a climate scientist and she's coming to like telling about the storm, but then it's sunny outside, but no one says anything about that. Yeah. Everyone just takes her word for it it's that, like we're trapped in the house.
Kind of like a Twilight Zone episode, or not Twilight Zone, but more like, you know, Black Mirror or something now.
Yeah, and then like she's all with her science, you know, and everything, and she's gonna try and solve, because they have a detective character who just has this lame like trench coat and this like ill-fitting like hat and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's
he
like
acts like a detective, but he can't detect.
But he can't detect anything. He's like a complete idiot, and so like
because he's a porn star detective.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like everybody has these kind of like where their outfits don't look right. You know what I mean? So he's like kind of trying to be a rumple detective, but he doesn't really look like one exactly.
Yeah, everything looks like cheap out of
everybody acts like what their crappy porn equivalent would act like. You know what I mean? But they're really like that. Yeah. So Bunny Van Clit is trying to solve this murder because she thinks the detective is an idiot, and all she's doing, she's going to use science to solve the murder, and then she's making like a science fair volcano with baking soda.
Baking soda.
And that's going to solve the murder somehow.
Well, they're all dumb. They're all dumb.
And it's like, it's just like so fucking funny. It's like the fucking premise of this is just hilarious, and I don't know how they fucking thought of it.
I think the guy was just writing a script, and he's saying, what if this horror movie was also a porn movie, and he's just writing it like a bad porn movie.
Yeah, it's like...
And then they go, yeah, that's what we're going to make.
It's kind of like I said, a lot of the humor is really lowbrow, but in a way that's like kind of genius at the same time.
It's funny, it was supposed to be happening in the porn universe. I don't even think there was any nudity in the movie.
There was male nudity. There was some male full frontal nudity.
That's right.
You know what? I think they might have done that on purpose, although I didn't notice it until I was watching someone else's review of it, and they said, there was no tits in this.
Yeah.
Although there was dick.
Yeah.
There was a full. It wasn't like erect or anything, but there was like a big dick like in.
That was
in your
funny.
face.
They were running from the bad guy. The two dudes are running from the fucking killer, and the killer's coming at him in a big
a gimp outfit.
Gimp outfit with a big old schlong that was dragging on the ground, just trying to rape him. And they run. So where do they run? They run into the shower to hide.
Yeah.
And the steam is going, and they're just, and you see them. They take their clothes off to get in. They take their clothes off to get in because it's the shower.
Well, that's what you do, yeah.
And they try to run from this guy, but they're in the shower, and they're somehow lost.
And
in
they can't find each other, even though the shower's like this big.
Yeah, and they're showing it from their point of view, and it's like they're in a huge room full of fucking steam, like they're lost. But then they show it from another point of view, just like outside the shower, and it's just dudes pressed up against the glass. And there's some steam going, and the dude, and the killer is just looking, standing there in his looking gimp outfit, looking at him like, what are these guys doing? So, the characters, their view of what's happening is very different from what your view.
Right, because it's like all they know how to do is what a porn star would do. So it's like when they're like, well, when somebody gets murdered, like was like, well, what do we do? And one of them was like, fuck. That's like all they know how to do. And then shit happens, like you said, like this big black guy turns up and he's like a firefighter and he's like got like no shirt on.
Yeah, he's talking like a porn star and they slam the door on his face. And
then the pizza guy comes with like a dick in the box.
And the other character is like, that was a beefcake.
Why you wasted a perfectly good beefcake?
Just
like sending him away and shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh my god, people get killed with a dildo. People get killed by fisting. It's just, it's delightful, and it's like especially funny. Like I said, if you love that kind of cheesy porn, like from like the 80s and 90s, because I feel like that's kind of what this is homaging. Yeah. But it's homaging it in like a really smart kind of way, and it's also, like I said,
it's making fun of porn.
It's making fun of it, but in a way that's like really clever. Like this was much cleverer than I was expecting it to be. I was just expecting it to be a dumb slasher, like set in a porn set on a porn set. But that's not. Yeah, it's like very high concept, really. Like kind of.
Yeah, it's up there with those kind of movies, like Naked Gun and fucking Airplane, and
I've seen some people compare it
like a laugh a minute type.
Yeah, I've seen some people compare it to Orgasmo, the Trey Parker and Matt Stone, that that the South Park guys, that one they made. It's it's kind of like that, but so if you really like this, I mean, essentially, like I said, it's kind of a horror slasher kind of movie because, there is a body count and there's kind of gore and stuff in it. But I would call it, first and foremost, this is definitely a sex comedy. It's, you know what I mean? Because it's just pretty much the whole thing is just porn tropes
and sexual innuendos
and sexual innuendos like from it. So this was actually probably the pleasantest surprise of our movie watching experience because I thought this was going to be dumb as hell, and I just thought it was fucking hilarious.
I put my shit down, started watching it, and I was laughing.
Well, he missed the very beginning because I think like you were in the shower.
I was doing something.
And then you came out and you're like, wait, what's going on? And then I had to explain. And like I said, when I thought that when I explained it for this show, like how it's not set on a porn set, it's actually like in a porn universe. It was harder to explain than I thought it would be. But
it's
so it's
porn
like
universe.
Yeah, so it's like the funny thing. It's funny because at one point too in the movie, like the characters in the movie start to become like self-aware, like babysitter. Because like I said, she doesn't have a name; she's just babysitter. Babysitter at one point is like, why am I a babysitter? There are no children in this house for me to be babysitting. So they start to become aware that they're like characters like in a movie. And like, one of them finds a library and they start learning. It's so funny. And it's just, there's a lot of great like visual gags and stuff that aren't really referred to, but it's like kind of stuff that's going on in the background that's like really good. But it's like a really cool, like a clever script and like
we recommend it.
Definitely watch it if you're into horror comedies, and especially if you like cheesy porn and shit that's making fun of cheesy porn, because this was like just a delightfully hilarious movie and we just laughed our asses off.